smoke and burn. I'm keeping my lamp full, waiting on the bridegroom. Cause when the kingdom comes, say I wanna be ready.
Welcome back to Lamp Oil Stock, a channel where we talk about different issues from an Israelite point of view. And we're going to continue on with our Red Letter Bible series. Part number 29. What do you got for us today?
I have no idea. I can't even find the verses. So.
It is Matthew 8:28 through 34.
Well, I mean, why didn't you say that?
I
All right.
just did.
Matthew 8. Oh, this is the end of Matthew 8.
That is correct.
Oh, good. Okay. Verses 28 through 34.
Right.
And 28 says, "And when he was come to the other side into the country of the something," that starts with a G, "there met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way.
29.
And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time?
30.
And there was a good way off from them an herd of many swine feeding. So the devils besought him, saying, If thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herd of swine.
32.
And he said unto them," and this is the part that's important for us doing the Red Letter Bible series, what he said was, "Go." And when they were come out, they went into the herd of swine. And behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down a steep place into the sea and perished in the waters.
33.
And they that kept them fled and went their ways into the city and told everything and what was befallen to the possessed of the devils.
And 34.
And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they besought him that he would depart out of their coast.
Okay, so this is the story that we're looking at.
Right, and Jesus says, one word,
Go.
go. Well, thank you for listening to my
No.
no.
Stop. You know we're doing more than that. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. So this is actually, to me, a very interesting story. And it's talked about all the time, but it's mostly talked about not from these particular verses, but from the retelling in Luke.
Okay.
In the retelling in Luke, just to kind of give us a little context, it is the exact same story. There's a few little detailed differences, but the biggest one to bring up first off is in this one, Jesus Christ asks the name of the demons that are there.
Okay.
And their response is, I am Legion.
All right.
So that is the there's more to the story, and we'll get to it as we continue on. But this is the Legion, the casting out of Legion.
Okay.
All right. So, like I said, there's a lot going on with this particular part. So let's kind of break it down, like we always do. And you want to go first? Or you want me to? It's up to you.
I'm going to let you go.
Oh, sweet. I can go first. Awesome. Okay. So, like I said, this story is retold. Actually, it's retold 3 times.
Okay.
So it's in Matthew, which is the shortest version, which is what we're looking at. And then in Luke, it's retold again, and also in Mark. Okay?
Okay.
Now, each one of them is considerably longer. So in Matthew, it is 7 lines.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In Luke, it is it's 11, 12, 13. It's 13 lines. All right. Now in Mark, it is 21 lines.
Oh, wow.
So it gets considerably longer. Now, all the same things happen.
Okay.
Okay. All of the same things happen, but there is just more detail as you go through each one of them. Okay, but there are also some differences. In Luke and also in Matthew, it's only one guy.
Okay.
All right, but in in Luke and Mark, it's one guy, but in Matthew, it's two guys.
Okay.
So I kind of looked that up to try to find out what's the difference. So at the end of Matthew, it says that the whole city came out to see him, and they told Christ to depart.
Right.
But in Luke, that same thing happens, but so does the guy who was possessed. And he says, I see the city, I'm paraphrasing, of course. The city has told Christ to leave, and he says, I want to go with you.
Okay.
And Christ says to him, no, you stay, you've got a home here, you stay, and publish everything that happened.
Okay.
Tell the whole story. All right? So, they're in the process, so he ends up staying, and doing that. And so we get a little bit more, you get a bit more of that guy, of what's going on with that particular guy. So you get a little bit more detail. Like I said, so he ends up staying.
Okay.
That particular guy ends up staying, and Christ leaves. All right? And in Luke, we get even more detail that they come and, when after Christ sends the spirits away into the pigs, this guy, let me kind of back up for a moment. In Mark, it tells you very clearly that this guy is naked and running around. That these guys are naked and running around.
Okay.
Okay? So after Christ kicks the demons out of him, they give him clothes and they dress him, and he is sitting there with Christ when the town shows up.
Okay.
So you see what I'm saying? He's sitting there. So you get more detail about the individuals involved. And like I said, in one it says there's one, in this one it says there's two. And the issue that some people say is Christ told one of them to go back and tell the whole story, right? And it seems like in the other two versions, he's telling what happened to him. Okay. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So after looking the whole thing up, reading over the whole story multiple times, it brought something to mind for me. All right, and I do suggest that you read all three versions. Read the whole thing, because you get different stuff as you read the whole thing. More detail,
right.
Those type of things. Read the whole thing. So if you don't mind taking a moment here and reading Psalms 105, verses 17 through 24.
Psalms 105.
Right.
17 through 24.
Right.
Okay. 17 says, He sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant, whose feet they hurt with fetters. He was laid in iron. Until the time that his word came, the word of the Lord tried him. The king sent and loosed him, even the ruler of the people, and let him go free. He made him lord of his house and ruler of all his substance, to bind his princes at his pleasure and teach his senators wisdom. Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham. And he increased his people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies.
Okay, now, I know this is a bit of a stretch.
Right.
But bear with me for just a second here. So, let's think about what's going on here.
Okay.
In this particular story. This isn't a story, this is a psalm. Mm-hmm. So they're singing here. Right? And they're singing about captivity. Mm-hmm. All right? And what they're singing about and reminding us of is the captivities that Israel have been in. Mm-hmm. Remember, these are songs of praise, and some of them are lamentations.
Right.
But in this particular one, they're reminding us through song that the Most High binds his princes at his pleasure and teaches his senators wisdom. Okay. As it says in 23, Israel came into Israel, and Jacob sojourned Israel came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham. What he's referring to is there are times where individuals or the nation has been in trouble just so that they can learn.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So when we're thinking about this guy, so let's back up here for a moment.
All right.
So we're thinking about this guy. This guy is possessed by demons. Christ comes, frees him. He's learned. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, it's not just it is a punishment for this guy. But it is also not only freeing for him, it is so that we can learn from the events that take place.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I do. I did it first, but okay. I'm with you now.
Okay. So you're with me so far. I know, like I said, I know it's a bit of a stretch, but this is part of what it reminded me of.
Okay.
Okay. So now also, let's think of the whole story for a moment, because I got another verse for you. If you don't mind, go ahead and pull up Isaiah 65, 1 through 9. It's Isaiah 65, 1 through 9.
Okay.
Now, don't read it yet, but just bear with me for a second. Okay, so this is Isaiah talking about something else completely different.
Okay.
Right? But when I read this story about Christ kicking the demons out of this person, I thought about several things. So he uses some words that I just don't see very often. Okay, one of the words that are used is the man is in fetters.
Okay.
All right, and that's that previous verse that we just talked about in Psalms 105. It talks about, and they hurt their feet with feathers.
Right.
Fetters, not feathers. Fetters, right? And in Isaiah, it's going to talk. We're going to talk about. Remember, he kicks the demons into pigs.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, when I read the story, I was thinking to myself, why didn't he just destroy them? Or why didn't he just, why didn't he just destroy? That was really my thought. Why didn't he just destroy them? Or for that matter, what about the whole daggone city? I mean, this is a place that is obviously raising pigs. I mean, they have them.
Right.
And even after he kicks the evil spirits out into the pigs, the people are pissed. I mean, they're like, get out of here. I know I'd read these verses before, but it really hadn't stuck to me that the town tells Christ, go away.
Right.
Now, so when I read all three of these, with more detail in the story, you actually lose something. In Matthew, it's very clear at the last line that the whole city, I'm just kind of reading the line, and behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they besought that he would depart out of their coast. So he's telling them, go away. Right? Now, in
You
Luke...
mean they're telling him?
Yeah. This is the people of the city are telling Christ, get out.
Right.
Now, when you read the same part in Luke, when you read the same thing in Luke, it says, and the whole multitude of the country of the G word, I don't know how to say it, Gardenese, whatever, round about brought him to depart from them, for they were taken with great fear, and he went up unto a ship and returned back again.
Okay.
If you notice, it's a little softer language. They're like, go to the ship, and then it says, and he returned again. And unless you're really paying attention, it makes it sound like he kind of went back into the city. No, he's leaving, going somewhere else.
Okay.
All right. And then in Mark, it's even worse, because it's not worse, but it's Mark 5 and 17. And they began to pray him to depart out of their coast. Okay? So, you know what's going on if you're paying attention. I guess in my own mind, I didn't put two and two together that the city, they raised pigs. And Christ just put all these demons in the pigs, and the pigs run into the ocean and die. They just lost their livelihood.
Right.
I mean, they just lost their livelihood. It's really, I mean, unless you're paying attention, it's really strange. Or unless you kind of put two and two together. Normally, we think, oh, well, this was a great thing that he kicked the demons out of the sky, and we just move on with the story. And that is great. Don't get me wrong. That's awesome. He does all that, and that's amazing. But think about the people in the city, the city. And now, normally, I don't care about them. And in all reality, I'm not really worried about them. They ain't worshiping the Most High. They're raising pigs. Whatever. But that's why they tell Christ to get out. But, like I said, when I was thinking about it, I was like, why didn't he just either destroy the city, or why did he even bother to go? Why does he even bother to go there? Like I said, I was thinking, why does he bother to go there? So do me a favor, now read Isaiah 65, 1 through 9.
Okay. Isaiah 65. I am sought of them that asked not for me. I am found of them that sought me not. I said, behold me unto a nation that was not called by my name. I have spread out my hands all the day unto a rebellious people, which walketh in a way that was not good, after their own thoughts. A people that provoketh me to anger continually to my face, that sacrificeth in gardens, and burneth incense upon altars of brick, which remain among the graves, and lodge in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh, and broth of abominable things is in their vessels, which say, stand by thyself, come not near to me, for I am holier than thou. These are a smoke in my nose, a fire that burneth all the day. Behold, it is written before me, I will not keep silence, but will recompense, even recompense into their bosom your iniquities and the iniquities of your fathers together, saith the Lord, which have burned incense upon the mountains and blasphemed me upon the hills. Therefore will I measure their former work into their bosom. Thus saith the Lord, as the new wine is found in the cluster, and one saith, destroy it not, for a blessing is in it. So will I do for my servants' sakes, that I may not destroy them all. And I will bring forth a seed out of Jacob, and out of Judah, an inheritor of my mountains, and mine elect shall inherit it, and my servants shall dwell there.
Okay, now, let's think about what you just read.
Okay.
But I'm actually going to look at it backwards. Okay, I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up.
Okay.
So, we've been talking about Christ.
Right.
Out of Jacob and out of Judah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I will send forth a seed out of Jacob and Judah. Is that Christ?
Right.
Okay. So next, I will not destroy it, for a blessing is found in it. Right?
Okay.
Now, we're still reading about this miracle to this day. Right?
Okay.
Okay, now, next. Now, so if we keep going up a little bit, you'll notice in verse number 4, which remain among the graves and lodge in the monuments and eat swine's flesh. That's that guy, right?
Right.
Running around, living in graves, eating it. That's that guy.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just wondering, is this in Isaiah a reference to what's going to take place in the New Testament? Now, when Isaiah wrote this, he's not talking about. It's not a prediction. Right? This wasn't exactly I mean, maybe it is, but it's also a story of some other stuff that's going on at the time.
Right.
Right, that's in Isaiah. But it also seems to be that the events of Christ
reflect
this exact story.
Okay, I see that.
Pretty strange, huh? I thought it was pretty weird.
That's good. It does. It does remind you of exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you got for us?
Oh, wow. My turn. Okay. So if we go back to it, Matthew 8,
Mm-hmm.
it says, he comes across, it says he comes across two people that are possessed with devils. So I want to look at what the devils said, because to me that's interesting.
Okay.
First, I want to make note of the video we did about demons and devils. So these are not devils. These are people who are possessed with demons.
I'm with you.
Right?
Yeah.
Because devils are physical and these are not physical things. So he's approached by this person who was possessed with demons.
Right.
And these demons cry out and they say, "What have we to do with thee, Jesus, Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time?" Now, I thought this was interesting because when I read this, they're not saying, they're asking Christ if he's coming to do something to them before their season of doing what they're doing is over.
Okay.
Because demons have a purpose and they have a reason. They're not just here because Satan did some stuff, right? Because if that was the case, God would have just destroyed all of them.
I got you.
And we would be done. So they have a purpose. And so the demons are acknowledging that they have a time in order to do what they're doing.
I got you.
And Christ doesn't countermand that. He doesn't, say anything against that. So then they say, and then they tell you that there are some pigs, and the demons asked Christ the demons asked Christ that if he was going to send them away, that they could go into the pigs instead of what you would see normally. Because when I read this, I was thinking as well, why doesn't he just, destroy them or bind them up so that they can't torment people anymore?
Right.
Because that makes sense. But Christ allows them to go into the pigs, and then those pigs run into the sea and kill them, or run into the waters and kill themselves.
Right.
So, one, why didn't he bind them so that they would go away? Well, he didn't bind them because, as they said, it's not their time to be bound or destroyed. So that's why he didn't bind them. But then it says that they run into pigs. So that tells you that the people in this area are raising pigs. And if you know the law, you know that you are cursed if you breed pigs. You're right. You're not supposed to do anything with pigs because they are a filthy animal. So now he's going to this group of Israelites, and they make their living from raising and breeding pigs. So when I was younger, I would watch TV shows, and The Exorcist was a big show, and shows that had these demons, or what they would call ghosts, depending on which movie it was. And I used to be so fearful that I would be possessed. I was, I'd watch that show and I'd cry and I couldn't sleep, and, I'd make my grandma go to the bathroom with me.
Oh my goodness.
Because, I was just so scared I was going to be possessed by demons. Luckily, I had a hedge of protection around me, but not everybody is that fortunate. And these people, even though they were born Israelites, were living evil lives, and that's what the pigs, them raising pigs, show you. So this man was able to be possessed by a demon because he was living an unrighteous life which allowed these demons to possess him. However, if you're living a righteous life, you don't have to worry about these demons possessing you. So when I read this story and Christ says, go, because I think, why didn't he bind him? It made me think of another story.
Okay.
And this story is in the Book of Tobit.
All right.
Now, I have been reading Tobit for hours today because there are so many very good things that this whole story tells and teaches us.
You mean in Tobit?
In the story of Tobit, but I'm going to try to keep it on focus. So in the story of Tobit, through a chain of events, there is a woman who is the only daughter of a couple, and she has been married 7 times.
Okay.
And before they even consummated their marriage, her husband was killed.
Okay.
Now, Tobit has one son named Tobias. And through a course of events, Tobias ends up going to be married to this woman who's had 7 husbands that have been killed on their wedding night.
Okay.
And in order to break what was going on, well, first off, we find out that our husbands have been killed because there is a demon that has fallen in love with her.
Okay.
And so every time she gets married, the demon comes in and kills her husband.
Got it.
So now we get to Tobias, which is Tobit's son, and he is the only son, and this angel, unbeknownst to him, gets him to go and ask for this woman's hand in marriage.
Okay.
And Tobias is like, wait a minute, I've heard about her, and she's done buried 7 husbands. I'm scared. I don't want to die, because if I die, not only am I dead, but my parents lose their only child.
I'm with you.
So the angel instructs him to take the heart and the liver of a fish that they had eaten previously, and to burn it when he goes into the wedding chamber, and to burn it in order to drive the demon away.
Okay.
And so he does that, but in the story you see that he burns the liver and the heart of this fish, and it drives the demon away, and then an angel bounds up the demon so that it can no longer cause any problems on the earth. And so when I read this story of Christ who just says go, I think, why?
Why does he not bind him?
Yes. Why does he not get rid of this thing that's tormenting people? His people at that. It's not tormenting other nations. It's tormenting his people. And the reason is because God says there's a season for everything. And these demons understand that they have a certain amount of time. So Christ did not bound them up. He didn't actually, what he did was basically just let them go free again, but he did show you something because he sent them into the swine. You know, they couldn't go to another person when he said go, right? So there were some things that were understood through the reading. So when you read it, you have to understand, as you're reading it, you have to understand that some things are just assumed, right? The demons assumed that they couldn't go into another person.
Right.
That they couldn't just go wherever they wanted to. So they asked Christ if it would be okay for them to go into the pigs. Now the pigs are filthy, dirty, nasty animals. Demons are filthy, dirty, nasty
Things,
spirits. So they go into that. And then the next thing that happens is Christ the pigs run down the mountain and jump into the water where they die. Now, we know they're demons, so that doesn't kill the demons, right? They are dispersed once the animal dies. But it is significant because they went into the water. And if we look up what waters means, well, depending on which instance you're talking about, it can mean something different. But, I had it here and then I lost it.
You're looking in Zavander's in the Bible dictionary.
Right. Bible Hub definitions of waters. And one of the definitions of that is the waters of life, that water gives you life, right? Mm-hmm. That is one of the definitions of it. So you have these dead things. First off, the guy was dead, right? He was living in the tombs. He was walking around, but he was possessed by demons. He was doing evil stuff. He was technically dead. And he was living with the dead. So then they go into these things that are filthy. And then they are rushed into the water. Well, water represents life, which of course actually kills the pigs, right? Because life and death can't be together.
I got you. Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I can follow. Follow. Can I? Do you have more? Because I got something I want to add to what you just said just now.
Go ahead.
Okay, so as you know, we're celebrating Passover right this moment, and in the story of Passover, with the idea of how we celebrate Passover and unleavened bread today. Not going into the actual story, but with unleavened bread and Passover, the idea is to get the sin out of your life.
Right.
Now, bear with me for just a second. Once again, another bit of a stretch. But let's think about what happened. We know what happened to the individual. We have this guy who is possessed, and the sin is pulled out of his life.
Okay.
Put into the pigs.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, in that city who raised pigs, thousands of demons are put into the pigs and they are run into the water. So it's kind of like Christ came and washed the sin out of these people. Now, not all of it. I mean, I'm not saying it changed everything in any way, shape, or form. They end up sending Christ away. But it seems like he kind of set the groundwork. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, in a time to get clean, what are you trying to do? Get the sin out.
Right.
You know, I'm not saying it relates completely. It just kind of came to me while we were thinking about this.
Well, he gave them an opportunity. He came and he showed them. He showed, at least for this person, he took all of that bad stuff out of him and got rid of it. And then people were told and they had an opportunity to see the right thing. But we know that they didn't care, right? And, well, today we try to tell people the truth all the time and they don't care. But, so they do have an opportunity. Him doing that shines a light. And then it's for people to decide whether or not they're going to jump onto that light or not. Right. And so in this case, then the people come and they're upset because they're thinking about their worldly stuff. Well, of course, they're worldly people. They've left God behind and started doing other things. And so they don't want that light. They don't want it to be shown on them. They would rather have people that are demon possessed and doing God knows what, and being able to continue doing what they're doing, than to have people free from that evil and changing and going back and leading a righteous life. So, like I said, it reminded me of the story of Tobit, but if you read Tobit, it seems to have a lot of similarities with what we today are dealing with. Tobit was a man who was raised, or he was born in Israel, but his family had started worshiping Baal or whatever, and they were, when he was a young man, they were taken into captivity for the to the Assyrians.
Right.
So everybody around him had started worshiping other gods and leading a very unrighteous life. But Tobit remained true. And as you're reading the story, you find out that he is still going to celebrate the feast. He's still taking his tithes and going to the temple for those feast days. But he's the only one around him that is. And today we look at ourselves, and I know that you and I feel like we are the only ones who are doing the right thing or trying to live a righteous life. You know, we don't know anybody else who is trying to do it. And, you know, people tell you not to worry about it. Just leave it alone. It'll be all right. You don't have to follow the laws, or you can break this law because it's convenient for me if you do.
Right.
Or, you know, because just everything is going to be okay. And it is difficult to continue to do the right thing. But Tobit, even though he's living that same life, does continue to do the right thing. But then Tobit is, he's blinded, right? So he's out and he's following God's law, and he ends up having to go into exile because the king is trying to kill him, because he buries the dead, and the king wants their bodies left out for display, because the king is killing Israelites. He wants their bodies left out for display, and Tobit sneaks in and buries the bodies, which makes the king mad, so he has to go into exile because the king wants him killed. Eventually, that king dies, and Tobit is able to come back home, and he comes back home for the Feast of First Fruits, which in the book it's called the Feast of Weeks or Pentecost. And he comes home for this feast, and after he's been gone for years, and his wife and his son are there to greet him, and he's ready to sit down and have this feast because, you know, he's been living off of the
He's
land.
been living off the
He's
grid,
been
yeah.
living rough and hard, and now all of a sudden there's all this stuff, and he's like, wait a minute, I can't eat this feast on myself. There's too much. So he sends his son away to go and get some people to come share the food with him, because to him it's a whole hell of a lot. To his family it doesn't seem as if it's that much, you know, it's just a feast, but to him it's a big deal. So his son goes away to try to find someone who's less fortunate to come eat, and while he's gone he finds that someone has been killed and he's just laying in the square. So Tobit doesn't even get to sit down and eat his food. He goes to get the body of the person that's been killed, and he brings him home and puts him up, washes up, and then he eats the feast. Because of course it's a Sabbath. We can't do work, and we have to eat the feast on a feast day. So he comes and he eats it, but he's depressed. You know, it's supposed to be this time of joy, but because of what's going on in his life and the things going on with the people around him, it's not a happy occasion for him. And then he goes and buries the body, and now he's being talked about and made fun of because he had just come back from exile from doing the same thing, doing what God has instructed his people to do. So he's being laughed and he's being persecuted, and he doesn't go back home that night because now he's dirty. You're not supposed to touch a dead body. Then if you do touch a dead body, it makes you dirty. So he sleeps at the wall. While he's sleeping at the wall, a bird comes and drops stuff in his eyes, which make him go blind. Now, Tobit is doing all the right things.
Right.
And everybody around him is doing all the wrong things. But they make fun of him. And they talk about how God must be against him, or how he must have done these bad things because of all of this bad stuff happening to him.
Right.
And yet, it's not true. So Tobit gets to the point where he just can't, he feels like he can't take it anymore. And he prays this prayer. And in that prayer, even though he's living a righteous life, what he prays for is that God will have mercy on him for his sins and the sins of his father. He doesn't go to God with this, I'm living a righteous life, so why isn't it that, why is all of these things befalling me? He goes with the understanding that he has been a sinner, because of course he's like, I would say, some of us who are trying to go back to the God's laws and figure stuff out, but don't know exactly everything, because his fathers weren't worshiping the Most High. So what he was taught was not necessarily the right way. So he understands that even though he's trying his best, he may not be doing everything right.
I'm with you.
So he prays that God will forgive him for what he's done, and also what his fathers has done. He comes very humbly. And I know I look around today and I see the world and I see these people out here. And some of them seem so damn uppity. So damn self-righteous. Like, oh, I'm doing the right thing and forget all of you other people. And you're not as good as me. Oh, they say they're humble. But there's no humility in their voice. There's no thought of why they are in the position they are. It's all about what someone else did. It's never about what they're doing or what they've done. And I feel like more people need to just rethink themselves. There is nobody alive today that should be going out boasting and prideful about what they've done. But I'm getting off topic.
It's okay. Take a moment. It's all good.
So let me get back on it. So if we read Tobit, and everybody should read Tobit from chapter 1, verse 1 to chapter 14, the whole way through. It is an excellent story, both by what Tobit had went through and what the angel says to them at the end. And anyway, as I was going to say, it is about a season. The season that we're in today versus the season that they were in then. Tobit takes place during the first temple. Okay. But he knows that the temple is about to be destroyed. And he tells his son to leave eventually. Before he dies, he tells his son to leave from where they live, which is in Nineveh, because a prophet had forewarned them that Nineveh was going to be destroyed.
Right.
So he tells his son to leave there because he knows what's going to happen, and he wants his son to prepare for what he knows is coming. And so that whole part of understanding that the prophets have given us those prophecies of future things so that we can prepare for those future events, that they're not there for nothing.
Right.
I think is real important as we're going through the times we're in. And also remembering that as we go back to Matthew, that there are many demons out there. But if you're trying to live a righteous life, you don't have to worry about them possessing you. You may have to deal with some torment, as the daughter in the story showed, but you don't have to worry about the possession. And, of course, doing righteously, even though remember that there is a purpose for all things, but all of this evil is going to be coming to an end.
Now, I want to ask one more question, because although I know I read a little bit of Tobit, and I've read it before, but I haven't not read it recently. Now, Tobit, like you said before, doing the right thing, doing his absolute best, and so is the girl.
Right.
Her
family is doing the right thing too.
Right. Now, they pray. This story actually takes a long time, doesn't it?
Right.
Okay, because although Tobit, let's just take an example. Tobit Tobit gets the stuff in his eyes, and over the next few days he ends up praying about it, and then the story switches focus to the girl, and she is also praying about the 7 husbands that she's lost, and the ridicule that she's
getting.
Right. So in the story, both parties are being ridiculed.
Right.
Okay. And then it says that their prayers reach the Most High roughly the same sort of time.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the events take place and all this happens. And Tobit is eventually healed.
Right. And so is the girl.
And so she ends up marrying Tobit's son, and they're both eventually healed.
Right.
Now, how long does that take?
8 years.
That's what I thought. I thought it was a long time. From the time Tobit goes blind to the time Tobit is healed. It's a 8-year event. It's not a he prays today and next week it's fine. It's 8 years that he's blind.
Right, and even though he's doing the right thing and he has all of this bad stuff happen to him because of it, he never leaves the Most High. He never talks bad against him. He understands that as a sinner, things are going to happen and that it's going to be for his benefit. And that's what he tells his son, that as long as you stay with the Most High, no matter what happens, it's going to be for your benefit.
Now, the other part that I want to bring up with this Tobit story, and I know this isn't even the part that we're looking at, but I do want to bring up this other part. So, the angel in the story is Raphael. Raphael is who's sent to be there. And Tobit and his son, they don't know that.
No. They don't know that they're traveling. That he's traveling with an angel, right? Right.
They have no idea as to what's going on. It's just a guy that... It's just a guy that Tobit knows. I mean, it's not. No,
they don't know him. It's just a guy that they met, and he said that he was someone that they knew. That he was the son of somebody they knew.
I got you. That's just it's amazing to me because the way the story is set up. So Tobit ends up being blind. So Tobit can't even see the guy.
Right.
He ends up being blind, and then Raphael shows up and it's like, yeah, you know me. I'm the son of so and so. Oh yeah. And Tobit ends up sending his son on a trip with this guy he barely knows. Well, actually, he doesn't know at all. Right? And they're gone for 8 years. I mean, they're gone for 8 years. It's a wild story. I mean, it's a really good story. Tobit has lots of ups and downs in it. It's a really good story.
Right. I'm going to read real quick Tobit chapter 12.
Right.
I'm going to start at verse 6.
Okay.
Well, in verse 5, up until this point of the story, Tobias comes back home with his wife, and the father is like, go get the guy who traveled with you so that we can give him extra for all the things he did.
Okay.
Right?
So they're going to reward Raphael for everything that took place.
Right. And Tobias is like, I'm willing to give him half of everything I received because he's blessed us in so many ways.
Okay.
And so they called the angel in, and they told him, and the angel said, this is the angel
Raphael.
talking. Yeah. In verse 6, it says, Then he took them both apart and said unto them, Bless God, praise him, and magnify him, and praise him for the things which he hath done unto you in the sight of all that live. It is good to praise God, and exalt his name, and honorably to show forth the works of God. Therefore, be not slack to praise him. Verse 7. It is good to keep close the secret of a king, but it is honorable to reveal the works of God. Do that which is good, and no evil shall touch you. Verse 8. Prayer is good with fasting and alms and righteousness. A little with righteousness is better than much with unrighteousness. It is better to give alms than to lay up gold. Verse 9. For alms doth deliver from death, and shall purge away all sin. Those that exercise alms and righteousness shall be filled with life. 10. But they that sin are enemies to their own life. Verse 11. Surely I will keep close nothing from you, for I said, it was good to keep close the secret of a king, but that it was honorable to reveal the works of God. Now, 12. Now therefore, when thou didst pray, and Sarah thy daughter-in-law, I did bring the remembrance of your prayers before the Holy One. And when thou didst bury the dead, I was with thee likewise. 13. And when thou didst not delay to rise up and leave thy dinner, to go and cover the dead, thy good deed was not hid from me, but I was with thee. Verse 14. And now God hath sent me to heal thee and Sarah thy daughter-in-law. 15. I am Raphael, one of the 7 holy angels, which present the prayers of the saints, and which go in and out before the glory of the Holy One. 16. Then they were troubled and fell on their faces, for they feared. But my point in reading this is that, yeah, all of this bad stuff happened to them. But it's not because God had left them. And the angel tells you that it's better to do a little righteousness than all the unrighteousness in the world. So I think people forget that, because they feel as if they have to live according to the world, that they have to do what the world tells them that they have to do in order to survive. But that's not true. And I think people need to really think about what it is they're doing, and no matter what the dangers seem to be, continue doing righteousness, regardless of what you think the consequences may be. Because at the end, it's going to be better for you. It's going to bring life to you.
Wow. Guys, thank you all so very much. And you need a break, don't you? But thank you all so very much for spending a little bit of time listening to us go over, hopefully, this brought something to you. If you'll notice, we picked out all kinds of pretty varied parts throughout the Bible, and now the Apocrypha. Brought all types of things out for this one. Read over them. Read over Matthew 8 and 28 and see what it brings to you. You know, it may bring even more or something else to you. Let us know in the comments. Please let us know the things that you think about. We love hearing from you guys. Thank you all so very much once again for taking a little bit of time out. Do you got anything else?
Kwame Asharala.
Bye.
Devising the plan to take over the world, and this starts with your mind. You see, when you hear new world order, you think of martial law. Soldiers kicking down your door with guns like it down on the floor. But you're wrong. To push the views on us till they sink in. This start the new world by ordering our way of thinking.